week's lab is much more, I guess, coding based than physics based. Unlike the previous ones are like math based, like the previous ones. So for like initial question for the week, so I've decided I'm doing this now. If you could put like your favorite programming language, if you know any, or if you only know one, like your favorite thing to do with programming language, or if you've just learned programming language that you've learned about it so far. So you can put that in the chat and I'll read them out while we wait people to file in because we normally have about 50% more people. I've gotten some JavaScript and Java from Aiden and Ramya, gotten C++ from Diana, Python from Truth. So we're gonna be doing Python today. So it's good. Java from C# from Sheesh. That's an interesting choice, but I respect it. Gotten a Scratch from Jonah. I think the majority is probably Java out of everyone, which I guess makes sense. In my undergrad, Java was what all the computer science majors learned first. But I wasn't in computer science, so I learned C. Or actually, no, I learned assembly first. So if any of you know what assembly language is, it's what you use to like program a like computer that doesn't have like the ability to use higher level languages. It's very weird. I think someone is unmuted. Let me see if I can. There. Cool. I just muted in case anyone had their microphone on. Yeah. So it makes sense that you guys have done a lot of Java. But yeah. Yeah, so I originally learned assembly language, or like first I learned like binary, which was just awful, like machine code where it's just like long strings of ones and zeros. And then when they got to like actual programming languages, you're like, oh, this is so much better. And in contrast, all the computer science majors, they learned Java first, and then they went backwards. So they eventually learned assembly and then machine code, and they're like, what is this? This is terrible. So it was much better. But yeah. So with that, I will kind of go over the program for today. The Canvas attendance quiz passcode is in the bottom left or right corner of every slide as usual. And I guess, so I'll do the attendance quiz quickly and have pre-lab Zoom feedback as usual. In homework 7, since this was the first programming work that was done through Canvas for Qubit by Qubit. So like there were some errors with it. And then we will go to the lab content and then post lab feedback. And I can also take questions during the correction section, but I know it's less, I guess there's more like straightforward questions a lot of times with coding versus, what's in my frame? Versus the more physics or math-based sections. So yeah, this is again, we're section 3 and the 720. It is on all the slides. And then we're going to ask whether you knew how to code before taking this course, and if you have any experience with Python. If you already know Python, we're going to be doing a calculator functions, just adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing numbers. So if you already know Python, it's very useful for you. But we're trying to make sure everyone's up to speed and at the same level. So that's why we're doing this. Okay. So I'm going to move on to, yes, I'll open up the pre-lab Zoom feedback before I do anything else. I'm just gonna launch the poll now. And then I will, while we wait for that to roll in, it seems like most of you kind of know how to code a little bit already. I'm getting the vast majority, 5 out of 5 already like accidental material. So hopefully this isn't too basic for people that have already covered it. I guess it is meant to be an intro just because it wasn't mandatory that you knew how to program in Python to take this course. So I'm sorry if anyone is bored, but it's very important for everyone to get up to the same speed because people are coming from a wide variety of backgrounds and a wide variety of ages. Okay, so now I wanted to go through some of the corrections for homework 7. So I'm sure like a lot of you, or some of you may have posted on Piazza about this, but there was an error with this question where it said if they have less than 3 seashells, tell them to keep it for themselves. And that was changed to just if not, tell them to keep it for themselves. If that was, it's kind of a small point. It has been fixed now. So if you redo the homework, this will be edited if you couldn't get that one because it was not, there was like an error with the question versus the answer that it expected. Because obviously it says like if answer 1, if the answer is 3 seashells, we wanted this to be the case, but we put it as a more general statement where the actual thing would have been, this would have instead been like Elif, I guess. I don't know exactly what the syntax was, but if this is less than 3. So yeah. Oh yeah, I guess you could also write it a few different ways. But I guess to more directly map the statement to Python, you can do it this way, or I think Clark, I don't know if everyone can see the chat, but Clark has, there's another way you could write it that is equally valid. Yeah, okay, so that's one fix. There's also a correction to question. And because instead, or was it you needed to make sure, or that they needed to reinitialize y to 0 whenever you go through the loop again. So yeah, that's like the difference between these two code snippets. Possibly should have put them on the same slide, but yeah, that's really the only 2 differences. And with that, we have the lab content, which will just go over kind of basically how to use functions, and then we'll implement that to create a calculator. But if anyone has any questions about the lecture content now, we can go over that now. Yeah, I'll leave you guys a second. And again, if you guys have not already done your Canvas quiz, section 3. Okay. Okay, so if there aren't any questions, then I will move on to the actual lesson. And so for that, I'm going to be sharing my iPad, and I can go back to that if we need, if I need to like write out anything, if anyone has like questions that aren't more coding related. And I will share. Which one am I sharing? This one. Okay, I'm on the wrong tab. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do, and I have this, oh, actually, can you see my screen? Like here, hopefully. Yeah, so you should like see this main.py. It says to write a function that, I'm sorry. Sorry guys, my internet just disconnected for some reason. Sorry, how long was I gone for? Hopefully not too long. Yeah, my internet has been a little bit unstable today, but it hasn't been bad until just now. Great. Okay, so here is our first section of the lab, which is just kind of going over what a function is and how to use one. So for that, I guess I don't know if you guys heard me or not earlier, but does anyone know what the keyword that you use to define a function in Python is? Nice. I'm getting a lot of answers that are all correct. People, thank you, Diana and Fadi and Fahim and Shruti and Xavier, everyone else. We will disconnect once more, and then hopefully it will reconnect and we won't have any more problems. Okay, am I back? Okay. Sorry everyone for, oh yeah, no, I've actually been talking with other people in Cambridge. So I'm back, I've switched to our 5G network and hopefully that's slightly better. But yeah, I was talking with my lab mates that also live in Cambridge, and they said that they were having internet issues as well, both today and yesterday. So I think there's something wrong with the internet in Cambridge right now. But now we're back. Hopefully I won't get interrupted by my internet again. Yeah, so here are our two parameters, our name and our hair color, and then we put this colon at the end to start the function. And then in Python, everything, like the way that this editor works is it will automatically indent for me. But generally, like you need to have an indentation for everything that's within a function or within a loop, any kind of like structure where you need to do something within like some like built-in functionality of Python, you want to indent that whole section, and that will automatically include it as part of that. So this function definition will continue if I put like something here, that's nothing. And then I put something else here. This is no longer part of the function. Even if I had it like this, it wouldn't be, although it's not very readable. And you have this little bar that indicates that these guys are part of the function. Okay. So now what we want to do is we just want to print out the name and the hair color for this function. Does anyone know, or I'm just kind of boring to say, I don't know how to print. Let's just guess, it's print. It's a lot of things in Python, you can just guess, honestly. Defining a function, I think, is a little less clear, but yeah, I'll just, so we're going to put in our name. So what we want the format is kind of written out here. We want the name plus has plus our hair color plus hair. And this notation is how you can do, like the current way that Python operates, you want to have your print statements in parentheses for Python 3. Back in Python 2, you didn't have to have these parentheses, and it's really annoying. So if you ever are using Python 2 or you accidentally downloaded it, you have a little bit more flexibility, but then also some things don't work. They're not consistent, I guess, is the thing. But this plus symbol, when you have strings like this, it will concatenate the strings. So that means it just kind of adds them together as a string. So if I was going to concatenate someone's name like in a string manually, I could say like Sarah here. And I've concatenated Sarah with this has. And that's all that this is going to do. Okay, so with that, here, we can call our function if we want. So now that we've defined it, you can just call your function by typing out the name of the function and then inputting whatever variables you guys want. So does anyone have a name and a hair color you'd like to be printed out in the console by the magic of code? Got an orange for hair color. I'll use that. And I'll just put my name. Thank you, Eric. So I will put that. Oop, oh no, did I? Oh, I don't have a plus here. That could be a problem. There. Great, so if you saw that error, that was because I didn't put a plus to concatenate this string with this string. And this, so this works. I've also gotten a suggestion from Nicholas for Griffin with black hair. So we can do the same thing as before, but change the name. And now it will give us both of these. Ooh, and I've got another with Voldemort with no hair, which I do like, so I'm going to do that one as well. Love that. And you can also run this like in the terminal itself. If you are using Replit or like any kind of editor like this, you could do, this function has been defined, so this should work. And it will just output based off of the function that we've already defined. So as soon as you've run this first bit, it will define it in your terminal for the remainder of the time it's, or I guess, yeah, for the remainder of the time it's open. I think it will refresh if you close it and open it again. But the, yeah, so the benefit of that is that you can just call things in your terminal itself. And if everyone, like, I guess I didn't explicitly say, but like definitely try to work through this on Replit yourself so that you can kind of get more hands-on experience doing it. Okay, so with that, we have another prompt. So this is part 2 of this little section. We now want to write a function that takes 2 parameters, x and y, and prints their product. So we've established how we want to define a function. So we'll do def prod. And then I guess I'll just kind of run through this so we can get to the actual calculator part. But we want to take our 2 parameters, x and y, like we said before. So they just go in these parentheses. And then we want to print the product of the 2, which is just multiplying these 2. And that's it. So we can, I'll get rid of these outputs just so we don't have them cluttering up the screen. So we could instead run product of 2 and 3, and that gives us 6, exactly as you'd expect. And so now we have these 2 functions that we could use throughout the rest of the lab. I don't think we're actually going to reuse them, but yeah, this is just kind of very quickly how a function works for those that don't have a background in coding. So now I'm going to do our 3rd task. So the 3rd thing we want to do is I want you guys to tell me what the parameters in this function is. So does anyone know what the parameters are? Getting some answers in the chat, and you guys are correct. Yeah, thank you to Eric and Xavier and Justy and Athena. There are no parameters in this function. So the parameters would go in here. You don't have to have parameters in a function. Obviously, both of these do. But you could like do a secret function, like if instead, let's see, oop. We call this like fake prod, and it actually takes no parameters. And then it could just print like 2 times 3. And that would do the same thing. Oops, I didn't run this. It did the same thing as if we actually put in 2 and 3, but there's just nothing there. So yeah, that's this one has no parameters. And then I'm going to give you guys 2 examples with bugs. So this guy, sorry, I have to just copy over everything the way that we have it set up. But so this function, we've defined something not quite correctly. Can anyone figure out what it is? Ooh, yes. Okay. Thank you to Athena and Maxwell, and Diana, and Carmen, and Victor, Angela, and Elon, Drake. You're all correct. It's missing the parentheses here. So if we try running it now, I think it would just like error out. Yeah. Invalid syntax, and it points to where it thinks the invalid syntax is. So you need these parentheses right here, and then it will run fine. You can run by, and it will do exactly what you expect it to do. Okay, great. And then finally, before we get into the major coding lab, there we are. So we want this function right here to return the difference between 2 numbers, but there are multiple bugs in it actually. Can anyone tell what bugs? I think there's 3 total. Thank you to Evelyn and Anantha Krishnan. It's missing these parentheses. So that, or wait, no, this one's missing the parentheses. We are missing a parameter for y. Thank you to Audrey and Elon. There's the ref or def is spelled wrong, so it should be def, not ref. Actually, I'll just copy this and fix it so you guys can see where we're editing. So this should be def, and you can see it's now turned purple, like it knows it's a function. We also have 2 variables here, but we only have 1 here. This trailing comma is actually totally fine. Python's really chill with commas, and you can just put extra commas, like not anywhere, but if you have like a list, you can always have a trailing comma at the end of it. So if you like we're copying and pasting like many times, it would be, oh, thank you for noting that I'm in the by function. That could be a problem. Yeah, so you can, if you're copying and pasting many times, you can just copy and paste like 10 times if these were all different variables, and you can always keep that trailing comma at the end, which I'll show when we run. Yeah, difference is also spelled wrong, so we'll fix that. And then there's one more that I think one person has pointed out. I'm gonna wait to see if anyone else can find the last thing that we're missing, and it's, as a hint, it's in the prompt for the question. Yes, so thank you to Elon and Angela, Diana. We're not returning anything right now. So what we want to do is we want to return this diff that we've taken. Okay, so I'll get rid of this guy so doesn't error us out. Not ran, so we can do the difference of 2 numbers. Let's do 2, 4, and we got 2. Great. And you can see this trailing comma is totally fine. It doesn't cause any issues. So that's that with the mini lesson. If are there any questions about the material we just covered? If not, I will move on to the calculator problem. And I believe you were also sent starter code for this calculator problem. So I'll leave another second if anyone has any questions. And then I have just like a separate Replit for this because I'm not super used to Replit, honestly. I mostly use Jupyter notebooks, but I know it's what you guys covered in class, so we're using it today. Okay, so now what we're going to do, and you should have gotten the starter code for this. I'm not sure in what form, but I was told that you guys received it. So what we want to do is create pretty much a little calculator so we can run any operation, or the 4 basic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And we have this kind of verbose descriptor at the top. But the trick, I guess, is what we want to do is we want to have 2 different implementations for addition. This is not supposed to be indented. We want to have 2 different implementations, one that just adds the 2 numbers, and one that increments a, I guess, counter, and then just continually adds 1 to your first number until you've made it to the second number. And you can see, I guess, how like you're automatically, I guess, receiving the difference between the 2 with this I value. But yeah, so that's kind of just what we're going to do for this section. And I guess I'll just open it up, honestly, if anyone would like to go on to the second prompt, creating 2 functions for subtraction that will take the inputs X and Y. And we want one that's the subtraction just with the code here. And then one that uses a subtraction loop. So if anyone wants to, I guess, if you can do it yourself in your own Replit, and then send the code in the chat. And then if you do that, or if you've got it done, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand and then giving an explanation for how each of your functions works. Cool. So I'll give you guys like a minute to write out your subtraction functions, and then either raise your hand or post in the chat if you'd like to give an explanation how they work, and send your function to the group. Okay. So I'll give you guys like 2 minutes, I guess. It shouldn't take terribly long. It's very similar to the addition loop. I've gotten my first response. I don't know if everyone can see them, but everyone should still write out their own, even if they see how this is done. But I believe this is all correct. Thank you, Diana, for your submission. Would you like to explain your thought process for it, or is that not your vibe? Yeah, I can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, and you can give your explanation. Let me see. I think you should be able to unmute yourself, but if you can't, then I can unmute. Sorry.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry. So for mine, like the first one is just returning the simple, like using what Python's regular subtraction. And
Mhm.
then the second one, it is just a while loop, very similar to the one you like demonstrated, but it's minus equals for x. So like every time you iterate through the y value, you're subtracting one. And then I just did like I plus equals 1, just because that's how I like to write it instead. And then you just return the value.
Nice. No, that was a great explanation. Thank you for giving it. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
exactly right. It's pretty simple going through it, but yeah, it's there's always like easy ways you can make mistakes. So I'm very impressed that you guys have not made any mistakes from what I've seen so far, because I make mistakes constantly. Yeah, I also see Victor. Thank you for also sending a version. It's like pretty much the same thing, but yeah, there's always going to be like, this is a quite simple program, so most of you guys will get pretty much the same thing. But yeah, I can write out these, I guess, similarly, exactly how Danny explained. We just want to define our subtraction function, or more easily, we can just take our addition function and modify it very slightly. So we'll take this, create this to a subtraction instead. And then like I said, we just move this to minus sign. And then for this one, we're going to use a loop, and then just go until we've gotten up to the size of y, so how much we're adding to this, or just subtracting from this, and then just subtract 1 for each iteration. And we can also swap this out, like she said, for this, and this is completely equivalent, but I'll keep it consistent with our first line just so everything is the same. There's no real reason to it should have the same results. Okay, great. So I guess should be able to run this test case actually. I haven't actually run the test cases. I have so many random things from Zoom popping up in my tab. But yeah, there we are. So for this, we can test our addition, where we want to input a number from 1 to 100. I'll just put like, I don't know, 80. And then another one, I'll do 5. And this did not actually, oh yeah, it says that they're the same. Didn't actually print them, which is weird. Oh no, what did I do? Oh, I clicked back. Okay. Nope. Let's go try to find how to get to where I came from. There we are. Okay. Sorry, I don't know how I just like lost the template, but yeah, we should actually print our sums so you can see that they're the same. So it actually does what we expect. There we are. Okay, so do the same again, 80 and 5. And they both give us 85. So this just tells us this is that these two functions do the same thing. The whole point of this is just to show a different way of, or a slightly more complex way of performing a one-line Python function. Where did my chat go? Oh, here it is. Okay. Great. So we can do the same thing with subtraction. I guess these are all going to be quite similar, but yeah, no, I'm not even going to ask like, oh, like, do you know how you write a test case? You can just copy the test case and then change out the words. So this is now subtraction. We've put these two in, and we just change out the names for all of these. So I'm going to call this difference instead. And I'll make this go a little faster by just adding here. I don't know any of the shortcuts for this text editor. makes it just slightly more irritating to edit. But all I've done is just change out the words for all of these and change out the variable names. So it behaves, I guess, as we expect it to. And I will comment this. Can I use this shortcut? Yes, okay. Command / comments out things in Visual Studio Code, and it also comments things out here, which is very exciting. So if you have your Replit open, you can do that. Just comment things out. So now I'm going to show the subtraction example. So let's use the same numbers, 80 and 5. And I guess most of you can subtract 5 from 80. We expect to get 75. And we get 75 for both codes. Thank you, Diana, for your wonderful code that I blatantly ripped off. Okay, so now we'll move on to the multiplication. So we want to do pretty much the same thing. But again, I'll give you guys a minute or two to try to implement it. You want to do the same thing as for subtraction or addition, where you can just modify these. The only thing that's going to be a little bit more complicated is the behavior you want for your multiplication loop. Is you're not just adding as you iterate through. You're not just adding 1 as you iterate through. You're adding the same number n times or y times. So that's how I'd recommend thinking about trying to do a multiplication loop. And with the prompts, you guys should have been sent a calculator project, a collab, like through Google Docs. That's where I got the starter code from. So if you didn't get it, then it's linked on Canvas, but I was not actually told. Yeah, and while you guys are thinking, yeah, if anyone wants to suggest 2 other numbers to subtract, we can do that. Yep. I'll do 88 and 50. Oh, can I just run it again? No, I can't. Sad. Okay. Yeah. So we can do 88. 52. Thank you, Padraig. And we get the result of 88 minus 52, which is 36. So this should work for any 2 numbers. It's pretty general. I mean, it's just obviously the subtraction function itself is just the built-in. Oh, wait, you guys can type in my URL. Oh, I didn't know that was possible. I can try doing that. So this is, I don't actually know how to do Replit very well. I just copy the Replit link. Yeah, no, if someone, well, I don't want it to be a complete disaster of everyone trying to type in at once. So if someone raises their hand or messages me, I will let you type and I will trust you. But yeah, if someone wants to do that, just let me know. Gotten. Wait, I'm like wait, I have no idea how this works, honestly. Thank you, Audrey, press the copy button, no one can edit it. But like, when can people edit it? Oh, and thank you, Victor, for your result. I think that's, yeah, I think, well, you don't want to start with the multiplier being 0, because everything, or, oh, no, I guess that's fine for you to start with multiplier being 0. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think that's a fine way of doing it. Yeah. go over. You can also instead start, I think you might have an off by 1 error. I'm actually not 100%. But yeah, that's all you really want to do. Oh, so you guys can fork. Okay, I'll share this. Okay, sorry for like not knowing how code works. Yeah, this is the Replit link. Was that not the right button? Okay, so yeah, if you guys don't have the code, then you can do this. Yeah. Okay, so with the oh, well, don't edit on mine, please. Wait, this button is different? Well, if you guys can find, like, I feel like this has a code that allows you to do things. Can you guys access the Replit with the link I sent? Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, now if that works, if what I sent works, then hopefully things are good. Now, this is a convenient little service. I just wish that I could do like little like notebook sections. Now, thank you everyone for your advanced knowledge of Replit. I don't have any. Cool. Great. Okay, so I guess I've gotten one answer sent to the chat. It's been a couple minutes, so if you haven't gone through how to edit it, I'll just give you the quick little version. So I'm just going to copy the code again and multiply the two. And I guess modify these two. So instead, we're going to do multiplication. Do I know how to spell multiplication? Hopefully. Great. And then instead, we're just going to multiply the two numbers just with the built-in Python multiplication function. Or alternatively, we can run through this loop and instead of adding instead of multiplying, instead of adding 1 to this, we're going to do what will result in multiplication, where we add x to x y times. So if y is equal to 1, this will go through exactly, this should be initialized to 0, I think. Yeah, because we need it to be general enough. So their solution for this is incorrect. Yeah, I'll do it like this. Yeah, so if we have a 0 here, then it will just give us 0. And then otherwise, if we have a 1, it'll go through once and give us 1. Yeah. Okay, so you guys have all gotten the fork thing correctly. That's very exciting. But great. So this is just how you do a multiplication loop. So the logic is just when you multiply something, I mean, you learned this in like 5th grade, you can treat something as multiplying something as adding it to itself repeatedly. Oh, can someone edit this? Okay, well, you guys you've disappeared. So yeah, so we just want to keep adding x to itself, which we're storing in another variable, which is going to be like the result of the multiplication. And we're going to do that until we've iterated through up to y times. So I guess the important edge case is that when y is equal to 0, it won't hit this and you'll just get 0. If y is equal to 1, it'll go through once and you'll get a single x. If y is equal to 2, it'll go through twice, and so you get 2 times x, and all the way through up to any multiplication. So we can do the same thing as we did with the subtraction as well. Did that not comment out? What? Just keep adding comment or hashes until it goes away. So instead of subtraction, we want this to be multiplication. So I'm just going to plop that in everywhere. And that's all we're going to do. So this is, I'm going to keep this the same. And then I'm going to, on this stuff should be lowercase. And then this is the product instead of the difference. And I'll just go through all of these. So this is, again, it's kind of the same thing 4 times or 3 times. We don't have to do the quotient or division example. Great. Okay. And so now we can just, again, I always think that I can just go up in the terminal. So we're going to multiply 2 numbers. Does anyone want to give me a number to multiply? And we'll see if this works correctly, if we did anything wrong. Thank you to Audrey and Shruti for 15 and 36. And we got the same number for both. So we've managed to implement multiplication correctly in Python. So this is all pretty straightforward and simple, but yeah, and I guess we don't have to do a division example. The final thing we have, or I guess I will start up, this is the majority of the material for this section. We have an kind of optional little Mad Libs thing that we can code with the remaining time, or I can take questions. I guess I'll do a quiz first for how well you guys understood the material, if you already understood it. Let me restart the poll. And then I guess if I get like majority 5s, I can just take questions instead of going through Mad Libs, which is, it'll just be another example of using functions. So it really depends on you guys what you'd rather have. So I think Python can compare anything with a double equals as far as I know. I can compare strings fine. It's not like C where it has so many issues. I've never had, the only time you might have an issue comparing floats is if you've concatenated, or I guess like stopped your float at a certain number of decimal points and done that differently for 2 different numbers, because the rounding errors can result in 2 numbers that should be the same being different. So as long as you don't have rounding errors, comparing floats is totally fine with just an equal sign in Python, or double equals. So double equals is, just, I guess I didn't actually go through exactly how this final little function, the only thing that's like really interesting and different is this last line where we do this double equals, which is inequality. So a single equals is assignment, or you call it assignment, but a double equals is like, is it equal to? Or like this is the actual equal sign in most coding languages. I'm not going to say all because I don't know that's true in every single case, but it's true in most cases. Okay, so with that, yeah, if you guys have any questions, I feel like we're going to just do the same thing. Or we're going to do a very similar thing to with the mini lesson, which is taking in, I don't really have it written out. So this is like the kind of a mini version of a Mad Libs, which I can just give you like a brief little version. So we can have a story that has everything filled in. It's like the way that any Mad Libs works. You can also do this is like a bunch of underscores. And this is kind of the basic story we want. And then we can add in a noun, as with any like Mad Libs, if you've ever done one before, they're like little books you just like fill in. So this is our story. So if we want a noun to fill into this, we could give any noun if someone would like to suggest one. Frog, dog, thank you, Jenny and Audrey. Let's do frog. And then it just places the frog and it just it concatenates these two strings and then prints the results. And so you can do like long versions of this. I'll share this with you guys if you want to mess around with it. You can create longer stories if you want. And that is Mad Libs link. This is just like the basic little intro to it. But yeah, you could create a longer story with like many nouns. But yeah, it's really like pretty simple, just the inputs and the prints. And this isn't even using functions, I guess, but you could functionalize it and make like a dictionary and pass in like a bunch of different variables in the form of a dictionary and print out the results of that if you were interested in doing a little bit more complicated coding. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the material covered or anything about Python generally? Yeah, is there a print that doesn't add a new line at the end? I mean, you can explicitly add a new line with like the same thing here, I believe. So the same. So now it has a new line in the middle. So you can just do the same thing with that. Because we're doing like an interactive Python terminal, it just always goes back to the control sequence. If we left the parentheses open, I believe it wouldn't go back, but yeah, it's a bit like weird the way that or like it's not weird, it's defined behavior for kind of how the interactive terminal works. Oh, print string. So thank you to Rohan and Aiden. You can end it with a quotation mark to get rid of the new line. I guess I'm not totally sure where the new line is. I guess like just going back to, yeah, like I guess if you start a quote and then you don't close it, it will it won't go back to your interactive terminal. But so you're saying if I let me test that. I don't do a lot of string manipulation with this. So if you do end equals this, that will not give us a new line. Ah, cool. Yeah. So then we just, but then it's just ugly. But yeah, I guess it makes sense. If that's what you want, then that's perfect for that application. Cool. Yeah, and so there's a lot of different text manipulation. You can go to the like Python page for any of these built-in functions like print or input, and they have a bunch of options. If you have any questions about it, like see if I can probably just try Googling it, but I feel like I'm gonna like find something weird. But you want the docs. You can go to not Python, print. And then here are your options for all this. So if you ever need to know anything about Python, you can just go to the docs page. This is for Python 3. There is slightly different syntax in Python 2. So be warned of that. And then it does also have some like other functions, like pretty print is really nice. It showed up here. It makes everything prettier when you print it out. And it has many more options for how I'd like to output it. It's mostly nice for printing dictionaries and more complicated data structures. Cool. any other questions about this or like the course in general? I know this was like a very different vibe than previous labs. And then, and it's also like, I guess, I know there's a wide range of skill levels in the course, but I know it's probably a little bit elementary for some people, but hopefully a good review. And then if you're seeing it for the first time, hopefully it made enough sense. But I definitely recommend just messing around and Replit. The cool thing with code is that you can't break anything real with code. You can just test it out and it will, like, even if you get an error, like it's not going to break your computer. You can just edit it and then fix it. Thank you, Clark, for your for your cool adventure game that you sent. I'm not going to open it just for sake of the group, but I'll check it out later. Cool. Yeah, there's like a lot of really cool things you can do with code. I got a question if we're doing more Python next week. I actually don't remember what we're doing next week. Let me see if I can find what we're doing next week. The lecture, wait, yeah. This week's lecture is on mathematics for quantum mechanics. So Dirac notation, inner product, quantum operations, Hermitian operations, and unitary operations. And then we're also going to have IBM education show some examples of quantum games this week. So I do not give lectures for this course. It's all Fran and Amir that do it. Both, I guess, Amir is like one of my current lab mates. Fran used to be one of my lab mates, and well, she was an undergraduate, but she's now at Oxford doing a master's, not related to quantum, funny enough. But yeah, so they do all the lectures for the section. I just do the TAing. And then I got a question from Jonathan about if you could break something. I guess if you're modifying things on your computer and not working in like Replit or like a Jupyter notebook, like you could access files on your computer and then like overwrite them. But that's generally like, you're generally not going to have a huge issue with that. Like anything that's built into your computer will require permissions to edit it. So if you've ever done like any bash scripting, you need like a super user access. So if you ran like your function with like sudo or sudo, depending on how you like to pronounce it, then you could overwrite something important. But generally, you can't break too much with just running a file. You could overwrite files that you like, I guess, if you just like decided to write like an empty text file to like every single thing you found on your computer, but that'd be kind of intentional. Yeah, in Replit, like you're just in the browser window, so you can't easily break anything. So if you're really concerned, doing it this way is definitely easier. And also, like if you can't do it with Python too easily, you could run. I think you can run Python on like an Arduino if you want to have like a more independent development ground. But you can also run things in a virtual machine if you're worried about that. This is like pretty much a virtual machine, but online. Okay, so thank you guys for all the questions. Next week, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled quantum programming. Hopefully this was helpful if you didn't have a background in Python, and not too dull if you did. But yeah, thank you all for your attention, and I hope you have a great week.